G'day legends, I hope that you're doing really well and having a great start to your week no matter where you are. I've started with some big gym sessions and I'm very sore. I've been struggling around the house. But I'm stoked you're with me today. We're going to talk about Ukraine, of course, and some updates, what's going on. We're, of course, going to have a look at the maps, halfway near the end of this video, as there has been some major shifts in the past couple of days and some major shifts actually being shown today across some and claims not across others. So we're going to look at that and, of course, then compare them. We're going to look over a video released from President Zelensky. We're going to look at some of the air raids that had gone on over the past 24 hours in Ukraine. Now, as I'm recording this, there is another major air attack on Ukraine, said to have multiple strikes on Lviv, but we don't know the outcome of that, the working of the air defense. We don't know about any of that yet. But what we're going to start with is we're going to start with this video, this sort of angry video from President Zelensky. Here, now I'm going to skip over the first minute as it gets more interesting about then. But I did laugh. The top comment for at least a while was, "Bro, are you welding or something?" Which did make me laugh. But from my thing, he's on a train here. But I do get what he's meaning as the light comes to and from through the windows on his face. So we're going to get into a minute from here as he's been on the ground speaking to guys in the Donetsk region.
Сьогодні це були детальні, відверті розмови про наші наступальні дії, про постачання у війська, про можливості командирів, про те, якими є зараз ці можливості та якими вони мають бути. Зброя та дефіцитні снаряди, ремонт техніки, гостре питання, транспорт для евакуації поранених.
So, of course, he's talking about the ammunition supply and, of course, the wounded and the time of evacuation going out there, that it is seemingly not satisfactory for what exactly is happening.
Безпілотники, те, що застосовує ворог, ланцети, орлани, і те, що потрібно нашим воїнам від мавіків до кожної іншої системи безпілотників. Очевидно, що українське виробництво безпілотників, лелек, фурій тощо, а також постачання від партнерів, всі форми.
So we know that drones have been such a big influence on this war and have shown us so much of how modern warfare is going to move forward with these cheap drones, like Zelensky says here, Mavics, all types of drones to combat the Russian forces, but also that Russian forces are having success with some of their Lancet and even their FPV drones are coming in as well. And here, of course, all forms of imports then must grow.
Зростати, це одне з найбільш вагомих завдань. Дуже важливо, щоб всі посадовці в системі оборони сприймали це завдання саме так, як про нього кажуть на передовій. Безпілотники – це витратний матеріал, їх має бути стільки, скільки треба, саме воїнам треба нашим, щоб рятувати життя та забезпечувати результати в бою. Є що робити в цій сфері.
That, there is much to be done, saying that they are needed more. He brings up there they're consumable. That is the good and bad thing with the drone. They're very good at what they actually do, but as soon as that drone hits something, even if it doesn't hit, that drone is then gone. They're not coming back. Now, of course, the ones that are used for surveillance targeting, they'll come back to and from, but not the kamikaze drones taking out then targets.
Говорити, що нібито робиться достатньо. Важлива тема – це те, як командири можуть управляти особовим складом, мотивація воїнів, тренування бійців, комплектація підрозділів. Дуже багато проблем через неякісну роботу ВЛК, військовий командир.
So he calls out then that there are shortfalls in the performance of some of these commanders. And this is something, if you listen to the interviews I've had, people bring up some of the commanders are more interested in the bureaucracy than actually then how effective it is then on the ground.
Через неякісну роботу ВЛК військові командири мають займатися війною, а не бюрократією. Будемо готувати рішення. Ще одна річ, яка звучала сьогодні в різних бригадах, воїни з передової, які приїжджають в тилові міста, заслуговують бачити та відчувати, що це саме тилові міста, що там люди живуть, пам'ятаючи, що там воїни, що наші воїни, що вони тут, на Донеччині, на інших напрямках, вони б'ються заради України, вони віддають життя заради України. Свободу та незалежність здобуває не хтось.
Here he's talking about, there's been a lot of viral footage going bloody everywhere of people in Ukraine, in Odessa, Kyiv, Lviv, out partying, drinking, and going about normal life, that it's a normal city. And for the most part, those cities are fairly normal cities. When you went there, I've said this multiple times, if you got picked up and dropped there, you wouldn't know that it was a country at war. You're still hundreds or thousands of kilometers away from the nearest, Russian front line. But those videos have gone viral, and I can absolutely see how soldiers coming back are like, what the fuck? We've just gone through absolute hell where there's so much death, so much fighting, back to this. And I understand that, but I understand the other side too of like, what, it's a Friday night, what else am I meant to do? I'll go out and have a drink. So I don't think anyone here is in the wrong, but I completely understand that thinking. And guys had it from all the trips overseas too. Like, you don't understand what is happening there from here. And of course, being in your same country is very much closer to home. Now, he talks here that freedom and independence are not gained by someone there. That, of course, it's gained by the fighters on the front line.
Це спільна народна справа усіх, хто воює і працює заради перемоги. Всі на війні, Україна у війні. І хто не б'ється на передовій, той має допомагати битись. І не у барах, не в клубах, не перегонами на вулицях, чи якимось там показовим споживанням, а цілком конкретною допомогою воїнам. Це щонайменше увесь адреналін країни, всі емоції країни, всі сили країни мають бути там, в боях, заради держави. Заради України – це головний принцип. Заради будь-чого іншого, чи заради себе – це буде потім, коли переможемо. А зараз оборона, зараз війна. До речі, дякую сьогодні.
So, talking about here, that the focus now should be winning the war, achieving what is needed on the front line. Everyone's focus should be towards that, not other activities, as he speaks about here. And I do understand where both the fighters are coming from, where Zelensky's coming from, and the people then having a beer and partying, whatever. Not everyone can just be involved in the war. Ukraine's just logistical systems cannot uptake the amount of people, even when people try to volunteer. They can only train so many people. They only have so many weapons, so many tanks. The whole system can only handle so many people, even if, some of the Western systems could potentially handle more, but that's a whole nother topic then to talk about. And we're going to talk a little bit in the end about this, but I do understand this. And the next bit he talks about is that the United States today released another $200 million package to Ukraine. There was ammunition for the HIMARS, the Patriots, and Javelins, things of this, and as well as 155 artillery, so many things like that. But I want to talk on that point a little bit more about then the partying, whatever. And a lot of guys feel this. I know guys personally who really struggled with the sort of woke feminism stuff coming back from like Afghan, that I had a few guys talk to me and be like, man, when I'd see some of the parade, some of the whatever, it's like it's not that I disagree with that, but I just come from Afghan where the women were treated significantly different in a country like that. Like, if you really cared, you'd be focusing on that, not this here. And I get that. And, people are all different. People have different experiences, but I want to talk about this. And, and this video came across my thing here of, people partying then on the left, and then these lads here carrying then a coffin of, some of their mates. And this is something that I think is not talked about enough, is this sort of maleness of what's going on there. Like, at the end of the day, men between 18 and 60 can't leave the country, can be called up to fight at any time, regardless of experience. And that there are, men avoiding the front line. And the Financial Times has written on this. I've talked about this before, that in a world so obsessed with like gender ideology and, this constant strive for not only equality but equity in the West, that this doesn't seem like to come across many people's radars. I haven't seen anyone jumping up and down going, who normally jumps up and down about any fucking inequality, about this, about, well, men can't fucking leave. Shouldn't that be on your radar if you're just, that is exactly what you talk about? Now, here we have the Financial Times has written an article saying Ukraine cracks down on corrupt army recruiters. Volodymyr Zelensky has ordered the sacking of all the country's regional army recruitment chiefs after investigators discovered officials had been taking bribes to allow people to avoid the military draft on medical grounds. This is nothing new. From the first days of the war, when I was there, people knew this was going on. The people that had the money could leave. Just look at some of the YouTubers who aren't there. So The patriotic fever has gripped the country 18 months into the full-scale invasion, and I think a lot of this is coming out of some of those videos that have come about. Ukrainian men aged 18 to 60 have been banned from leaving the country ever since martial law was introduced in February 22. Exemptions exist for medical reasons, study abroad, being a single father, having more than 3 children, or caring for a disabled person. So what people are doing is paying to get something of this exemption made. So maybe a medical reason, whatever, to then go out. And one of the ones was, well, I need this like specific MRI to see this doctor outside in Poland, and that would be then the way out. A recent government investigation uncovered corruption at recruitment centres in 11 different regions. The cost of bribes differed across the country, but many draft dodgers were asked to pay $6,000 for a medical certificate. That is a hell of a lot of money in Ukraine. So this bloody bloke here was charged with taking more than $5 million worth of bribes, and his cut was between $2,000 and $10,000 per person. And then he bought a 4.2 million euro villa in Spain in December. This is where we talk about a total of 13,600 men, which isn't that much when you consider the population of Ukraine, have been caught attempting to cross into neighbouring countries outside the official checkpoints, and another 6,100 have been arrested using fake documents at regular border crossings. What I want to talk about really is I agree with that men in a society should be, yep, we're going to sign up and we're going to fight. But this forced conscription, this forced thing of men, I don't see how this still flies. Now, I have no problem with anyone being in a combat unit, male, female, whatever, as long as they reach the same standard. This is where you'll hear a lot of veterans talk out about Western militaries where the standard has completely differed. I think forced conscription into any military is very unfair. So someone like me, I've signed up to defend Australia before, and I would do it again. Do I think just random Bob Smith on the street should be forced by a government into and not even leave in a situation like this? No. Again, pointing at, 18 to 60 men, not that. And I bloody would love to know what the West, who are obsessed with this sort of shit, would actually say if we went into a war like this. I guarantee very quickly some placards would start coming down and, men on the front line again. People trying to flee a war who have no experience in warfare, whatever. Fucking fair enough. I understand that. Like, you're probably scared shitless. You could be drafted. You don't know what you're bloody doing. You've seen how things have gone. And don't think this is a Ukraine problem. There's probably been well over this, bloody to many factors, in Russia crossing into other countries as well. But I think there's a lot of hypocrites out there who would have no problem with something like this, but as soon as it was a position of power, things like this, then would have major problems and are nitpicking little bits and pieces. But I don't agree with the forced conscription of anyone, male, female, whatever, but especially when you're just going, just because you're born with that between your legs, you could be forcibly conscripted. I think that is insanely outdated in this day and age, even if I think men probably should go on to the front lines before women. If you're the type of person jumping to go, male privilege is male privilege that, well, look at a situation like this, look at what would happen on the Titanic, and I would argue anyone to the hilt that if we were faced with this, we would be doing the same thing again, and probably not that many people would jump up and down about it. And I thought that was interesting, probably get me cancelled, but at this point, whatever, I'm dying on YouTube anyway. So we're going to talk about a number of missiles that hit last night over Odessa region. Now, the defense of Ukraine said last night Russians attacked Ukraine with 8 caliber cruise missiles and 23 Shahed UAVs. All targets have been shot down. Glory to Ukraine's air defenders. And we have seen a lot of footage coming out of things burning, things on fire. So this is a supermarket in Odessa on fire. And this was then the supermarket today. So this has been completely gutted, and this building next to it, which I guess is the same supermarket, judging by the trolley here, has been completely gutted from there. Now, this was said to be remnants of one of the missiles coming down that had been struck. This is the same supermarket here. We're just going to go through this from here, that they'd shot down these, but then the debris had damaged this. Now, this has caused a lot of argument online of whether this was debris, whether it's a direct strike. Whatever, there's footage that has come out that appears to show an air defense missile going up, basically turning around and hitting. We have seen footage like that from Russia as well. Now, there's a lot of arguments online whether this was debris, the own air defense, a direct missile strike on there. Now, I can't tell you which one it was at all. It potentially could be all three. Anyone could be there. But what has happened is, missiles were fired in and something has struck that supermarket at night. Luckily, at night, it was either empty or very reasonably empty, as from the casualties, from the lack of casualties, we can assume that. So at least that hit then at night. People will point out, well, if it was going to just take out people, why the hell would you target a supermarket at night? Some other little bits and pieces before we get into then the maps that I found interesting. So we have this video that's been going everywhere of a Bradley here coming up through a frontline position and gets struck here, drives for about 2 seconds, and then comes to a stop. Now, this has been claimed everywhere from your sort of AusInt pages that this was from a Russian tank, so 125 mil. Now, personally, I just don't buy that at all, because 125 mil is going to punch through like butter, especially Sabo. Reactive tiles or not, it's going fucking through. Now, I think this more looks either like a mine or maybe some sort of ATGM from there. And it also could be, like a heat round from, 100 mil, which is T55, BM33, BMD4, heat round from there. So it could be a whole range, but my whole point is 125 mil. If someone says that this is 125 mil from something, I really beg to differ. But was this a completely survivable hit? Well, it's saying that no crew was harmed, but the stop straight after this in a very vulnerable position, you've just been hit, to me seems like the thrown track, that the track is off and that the vehicle has been stopped. Now, we have no idea if the vehicle was then further damaged, destroyed, recovered. We don't know that. It's just said that the crew has survived, but that was the same saying it was a 125 mil. Some were saying even a Sabo. So I don't really know, but it's just interesting to have a look at that, and a lot of people talk about some stuff they don't really know. Now, some other footage that I did find interesting, I've just never seen this before, is we've talked about the use of glide bombs from the Russian forces, that they're a lot cheaper, and they've got a lot more just random bombs sitting around that they can swing across to put bloody fins on and then use as these glide bombs. So these Fab 500s are being used extensively. Now, I'm not sure exactly where this is, but we do know there has been ones hitting down around Ruzani. So this was from, I've got it written here, a Su-34 aircraft. So we see from here, from one of the pilot's view, then we'll swing down to the right, and then we see these released, and you can see then the fins pop out here, and those glide bombs then away from there. And they have been very effective for the Russians, both financially and the destruction on the ground. But I just thought that was a very interesting video. One more thing before we get stuck into the maps is a sea mine has taken out a pier in Romania. And this is another one, the photograph of another mine floating in that direction. Now, the pier is near here in this Constanesti region. So let's zoom out a little bit. And of course, then we're going to pop up with, here's the pin of it. This is Ukraine around here. This is Crimea, and then Russia across here. Now, is it a Ukrainian? Is it a Russian mine? Well, Ukraine and Russia use the same sea mines. So we don't know. It could be anyone's guess. You can speculate on who it was, but it has taken out a pier there. No one was injured, but there was a rat, looked like it had died. Things like this are going to be a long-term problem within the Black Sea. And I spoke yesterday about, I would not be surprised if the ships that enter in from here to go to Bulgaria, Romania, wherever, the insurance is going to then skyrocket because of problems like this, that you could just be going into Bulgaria here and hit a sea mine. If you're going into Romania, hit a sea mine. This is going to then be a big issue. Is this an attack on NATO? No. Enact Article 5? No. But this then has that sort of butterfly effect onto then grain deals, things like this. So let's then move on to then the maps and have a look at what has changed. Now, of course, we have Ukraine, the capital of Kyiv, red areas occupied since 22, purple then since 14, the green areas that have been liberated since the beginning of the war. What changes have we actually seen? Now, none of the maps are showing me any change down in this Kherson Oblast, as we know that there are two bridgeheads have formed around here. So if we jump onto then the Ukraine daily map updates, we see bridgehead here and here. Now, how effective can this actually be? Well, we don't really know because we haven't got any evidence of an armor crossing here or troops in very large numbers, but we do know Russia has deployed extra artillery units into here to try and then combat this. So let's move down into here. Now, there are a lot of rumors that Robotyne has been completely liberated. Now, on this map, you'll see that it's very contested, heavily in this contested area, but there's nothing that actually 100% shows now that it has been liberated completely. So that is just, at this point, pure speculation. So if we then jump onto the satellite here, Robertini is actually showing on Deep State that Russia control a lot more of Robertini than on this map. So no other maps are showing that it is completely liberated or completely held by Russia either. So it's somewhere in between. So let's just have a look, and we see that Ukraine did make some amount of ground down in here. And then on this map, we do see as well, Ukraine made some ground here, pushing the Russians back onto the southern outskirts of Robertini. Will we see Robertini be completely liberated in the next couple of days? Potentially so. Most likely, I would say that we will see that happen. Now, Uruzani as well. Now, we see not much real change here at all, and we don't see it as well in Uruzani, Samorsky area, other than a bit more of confirmed controlled ground by the Ukrainians, so shrinking then that grey zone in this area. So then let's have a look on some of these other maps around here. So Surak maps here has that Uruzani has been completely liberated by the Ukrainian forces, pushing the Russians back out to Zavattini here. So we'll see Uruzani and then Zavattini back here. So these maps are very matching. So we see this waterway down through here. Of course, Deep State is showing that Russia holds right up to here, where Surak maps is not showing, but that is in or there. There's probably nothing that's just geo-confirmed that there. But in the past 24 hours, we haven't seen too much change there like we did see in the 24 hours previous to this. Let's look at where the defensive positions are, and the defensive positions are still a good 10 kilometers from here, and Ukraine is right up on them in around Robertini and have taken some of these first lines. Now, one thing that was interesting in Andrivka, of course, just to the south of Bakhmut here, we did see Russia have a mechanized assault here, didn't have any ground change. This is a screenshot of a video of that. Now, I can't show the video on here, but it does show that Russia did lose 2 T90Ms, a BMP-2, an MTLB, and 1 T80 BVM as well. So, of course, the 2 T90s is the big loss in there, as these are the most modern Russian variant tank on the ground. So this has then been geolocated to here, so just outside of Andrivka on the east. But the rest of the map shows no other changes except for some large changes up in Svatov region here. So let's just have a look on the Deep State, as this doesn't show the most, but we just see Russia take some ground near Kamazanivka here as well. So that is a fair bit of ground taken there. And these are the only 2 maps that are actually showing this that I have, and I don't have any Russian sources maps showing this. I only have the UA map and the Deep State map here, both pro-Ukrainian sources showing this. So we do see a significant amount of ground taken there. Now, if we jump across to this map and we go up into this area, this shows that the Russian forces have taken significantly more ground. So where we're looking is just near Svatov. So let's zoom out to show you where we're talking. So we're around this area, so the northeast Kharkiv Oblast. Let's roll back a day. So Svatov, Kamazanivka, and Novodani in here. So the advance we did see was here off the Deep State. So let's go forward today. We saw a push just there, and this map is showing that they have made significantly more gains. So if you can just see where I'm lighting up this into darker red, this amount of ground taken here and this amount of ground here. So we'll just do that again. That is a significant push through there. So it will be interesting to see what then the pro-Russian maps come out with about this, but that is a lot of ground taken. So not all of it is shown, of course, on the Deep State. We only have this bit here taken, which is emulated by right here. But this map is showing significantly more ground taken there. So that is very interesting as we're seeing those changes, but it'll be very interesting to see how that then is being reported further down the line. Now then, if we continue north from where we're looking here, so we see up around here, this is where in this Sinkivka region where we've seen Russia make a big advance over the past week, but nothing really else since then. Suryak Maps then has this that said they have made an advance just to the east of Sinkivka, but this is not being shown across these maps. So if we jump then into then sat view, let's have a look. Now, these are not the easiest thing to line up at all, but we have these paddocks then on this 45-degree angle and this paddock here just down from a cross intersection. So this is, I believe, the cross intersection in line with Sinkivka, and then it is this paddock. So Russia is said to be up around here, but neither of these maps are showing then that advance, but it is showing it still as contested there. So it's interesting to see what will happen there, but I think that this major push that it showed in around Svatov is going to be very interesting. So let's see if the other maps actually then show that that is exactly what happened. Brady Africa, like an online Frontline blogger, has posted about that Russia has built defences throughout the summer. Brady's stuff is really great. You should go have a look at it both on Twitter and then his website too. So what he talks about is that these defensive works, and let's zoom out, they're in white here. These defensive works, this isn't just like built and, that's it. They're still building on these. Russia is still building this and have been reinforcing these throughout summer. So if we just step back into this folder, we have some videos that he has released here now. He has many photos, satellite stuff. He's really good at what he does. He does talk about this. So we see these fortifications on June the 5th, 2023. Then we step up into August the 1st. This is the same region. Now, it looks different because the seasons have changed and, of course, fields have been ploughed, whatever. But then this has been then extended through here. And these are just a few examples, and he shows many. So down here, we're talking June 2023, then to July, we see all these new trench systems being built up through here. And don't think that this is just, now stopped. So there's going to be a big issue when we get into there. But if Ukraine can punch through them, the problem with defensive works is they can't move. That if you can get around them, then they become useless and you've got troops stuck in one area. But it'll be interesting to see how that actual main punch through goes, because we haven't seen Ukraine punch through the main line of defence anywhere yet. It'll be interesting to see once that is there, once it is breached, if it's breached, what then goes on, because that's when the real offensive then needs to start, and then this multiple push down through wherever the main push is going to go. Maybe Berdyansk, Mariupol, down Crimea. We don't actually know. That's all just speculation. Talking about this is where people say the inability of the West to react quickly, let Russia build up these defences, get better tactics, train more guys, recruit more guys, conscript more guys, that the West's slowness on this made it harder Russia to fight, and therefore are going to have more consequences for the Ukrainians' counter-offensive. So Dr. Jack Watling writes, Russian incompetence in offensive operations in 2023 saved Ukraine's allies from the full consequences of their indecision. The Ukrainian offensive may yet succeed, but the price has risen steeply because of the Western lethargy. Speaking that, because the West have taken more time than was probably needed with some of this, then it has given Russia time to recruit more guys, conscript more guys, build up things, get tactics, look at what's going on. So then it's going to increase, or sharply increase the amount of hurt that's actually going to Ukraine has to wear to then push through these areas. Where this will go, we don't know, but I hope this was interesting for you. This video took me a long time to get through. I don't know why I couldn't talk, but if you'd like to support me, links down below, but never feel obliged. I really appreciate your time, sticking with me. Sorry about all the cuts, but look after yourself. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.